On behalf of the Village of Orland Park, Mayor Picow, Village of Orland Park trustees, and the Orland Park Veterans Commission, I would like to welcome veterans, residents, and guests to today's annual Memorial Day ceremony here at Arapache, which means place of peace. Today, we pay tribute to the ultimate sacrifice that these brave members of the armed forces have made for our great nation. My name is Dan Marsan, and I'm a veteran of the U.S. Navy and a commissioner on the Orland Park Veterans Commission. I would like to point out on page 2 with all the upcoming veterans events. Please take note of that. And I would like to take a moment to recognize all the veterans in today's attendance. So do we have any Air Force veterans? Please stand. Thank you for your service. Do we have any Army veterans in today's attendance? Please stand. In addition, today, we are honored to have Rich Orland, World War II veteran, and at D-Day. Welcome, and thank you for your service. Do we have any Coast Guard members today? You got one. Thank you for your service. How about Marines? Do we have any Marines today? Please stand. Thank you for your service. And Navy. Any Navy veterans, please stand. Thank you for your service. To begin today's ceremony, I would like to welcome the Color Guard to post colors. The Color Guard today is from the American Legion Orland Memorial Post 111 and the VFW Reber Tesman Post 2604 from Orland Park.
Flag team, detail, halt. Left, face. Post, color. Present, arms. Join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance. I pledge to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order, arms.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for our national anthem performed by the Orland Park Children's Theater Singers. I would like to mention that all these young ladies have family members that have either served in the military or are in the military, so please welcome them.
Present, arms.
brought stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order, turn. Fall out.
You can sit down. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies. I would like to welcome Dr. James Sandberg from Faith United Methodist Church in Orland Park to offer today's blessing.
Let's humbly and reverently bow our heads in prayer. Gracious and merciful God, on this sacred day of remembrance, we gather in humble prayer to honor and remember the brave men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice defending our nation. We acknowledge the bravery and courage they displayed, giving their very lives to protect the principles upon which our great republic was founded. As we reflect upon their valor, we are reminded of the immeasurable price they paid for our freedom. We are mindful, too, of those who experienced their sacrifice in a profoundly personal way. We offer our gratitude for parents, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, and children who endured the pain of their loved ones' sacrifice. We pray that you, O God, comfort those who grieve such loss today. Grant them the strength to navigate the journey of healing, and grant them peace in their hearts. It's also important to remember, with our heads bowed in prayer, the men and women who currently serve our country. Protect them, Lord, when they find themselves in harm's way. Grant them courage, wisdom, and discernment as they carry out their duties in service to our nation. But today, Lord, above all else, we are here to remember those who literally gave their all for the red, white, and blue. May we never take for granted the sacrifice made by these courageous souls. Help us to remember their legacy and the precious freedom we enjoy because of their dedication. Guide us in cherishing the values of liberty, justice, and equality. Inspire us to live in ways that honor the memory of those who laid down their lives for us. In your infinite mercy, O God, we humbly pray for a world where peace prevails, where conflicts are resolved through understanding, and where the sacrifice of the brave men and women whom we remember today become a beacon of unity and harmony for all nations. May their memories be a lasting blessing, and may their spirits find rest, O God, in your loving embrace. We offer this prayer with gratitude, hope, and a deep reverence. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Sandberg. Mr. Stephen Bacco, U.S. Navy veteran and Orland Park Veterans Commissioner, will present a wreath for veterans who have passed. Thank you, Stephen. Please welcome today's guest speaker, Edward G. Schuessler, U.S. Air Force veteran, captain, Orland Park Village trustee, 1989 to 1993, 2002 to 2015, and acting mayor, 1992 to 1993.
Thank you, Dan. What beautiful weather for a Memorial Day ceremony. I'm not quite sure why the mayor asked me to do this, other than when I looked at the number of people that stood up, we were a little bit shy on Air Force veterans, so that might be the reason. And I think we have to put that down a little bit. I'm a short guy. You get older, you get shorter. I spent 3 years as a missile launch officer at a Air Force base in North Dakota, Minot Air Force Base. And everybody who hasn't known me, and they find out when I was in the military, they say, well, were you in Vietnam? I said, no, I was 60 feet underground during the Vietnam War in a missile launch control center. And I was responsible with a deputy for 10 intercontinental ballistic missiles. And we hoped and prayed that we never got the message from the president on down through the military to launch our missiles, because if we did, we knew that we'd have something coming back that would be welcoming us. Fortunately, I never got that message, and nobody's gotten that message since I finished my Air Force duties. Memorial Day started after the Civil War. It's been around a long time. It was known originally as Decoration Day, and it got that name because the volunteers would go out and decorate the graves of soldiers with flags and flowers. The purpose that Decoration Day was declared was to honor soldiers who had died in battles, starting with the Civil War. In 1971, Congress changed the name to Memorial Day, and they changed the day to the last Monday in May. For me, Memorial Day means two things. First and foremost, it reminds me to remember the men and women who were killed in the line of duty. And I think of people that I knew. I went through ROTC when I was in college, and I was commissioned, as everybody in my class was, as a second lieutenant in the Air Force Reserve. And one of my classmates was a fellow by the name of John. And immediately after college, he got his orders to go to helicopter school. And right after he graduated from helicopter school, he was sent to Vietnam. And unfortunately, John came home from Vietnam in a coffin. I think of Carrie and Ron, who were both, Carrie was in the Army, Ron was in the Navy. They both ended up passing before their time because they were exposed to something called Agent Orange, which at the time the government and the military thought that that was the way to win the war, to eliminate the jungle so that the Viet Cong could not hide there. The unfortunate side effect of that was to subject our soldiers to these chemicals, which eventually caused them to get cancer and to pass. And I think of the 7 men. I don't know what I'm doing. Too close? Okay. Yeah. I think Okay, we'll get it here in just a minute. Oh, it's tipping. Okay. For some reason. Okay. Now, I'm 79, I forgot what I was going to say. No, I think of the 7 men who lost their lives while I was on duty at Minot Air Force Base in a helicopter accident. And it was a pilot and 6 military police that were on a flight to check out a missile silo because an alarm had gone off. And unfortunately, the helicopter disintegrated in midair and they all passed away. So that's what I think of, number one, when I think of Memorial Day. Those people that I just mentioned and many, many thousands of others who gave their life for service to our country. The second thing that I think about Memorial Day is it reminds me of our need for a very strong military to protect our freedoms and our democracy. That means we need well-educated volunteers. We need to properly compensate those volunteers with money, pay, and reasonable benefits. And we need modern equipment and supplies. So why am I mentioning that to you today? Because we're all taxpayers and we have to tell our representatives when they're talking about budgets that they need to maintain a very strong military. So as we go about our business today, the rest of the day, I would ask you to reflect on the price and the pain of freedom, and remember the military men and women who lost their lives in service to our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schuessler. Please welcome Keith Pekow, U.S. Air Force veteran, captain, mayor of Orland Park, to share Memorial Day reflections in the reading of 5 newly engraved names.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you to the trustees who came here. Let's see if we can get this right. Is that better? And I'd like to thank the trustees that are here today. Trustee Healy, Trustee Milani, Trustee Katsinas, Trustee Radishevsky, and Trustee Compass. Thank you very much for coming out and joining us today. I'd also like to thank all of the men and women who served. So all of the veterans, I'd like to thank them as well. Oh, I think we're good right there. I think it got too far over to the side. So could all the veterans please stand up and be acknowledged? I also want to thank all of the family members that are here today, because you make a sacrifice too, and all the veterans know it. I'm deeply honored to stand with all of you today, commemorating the sacrifices of those men and women who have given their lives in service to our nation. Over time, Memorial Day has become the unofficial start of summer, a day of barbecues and parties, and a day off. That is because those things represent the way of life that many of us fought to protect. This year we're celebrating, as we always do, but we still celebrate because we are remembering that Memorial Day honors over 1.2 million Americans who have given their lives for us since the Civil War. It is the Village of Orland Park's honor today to host our Memorial Day ceremony remembering the men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Since before our country declared independence, men and women have been willing to pay this sacrifice to protect our freedoms and our way of life. It is fitting that we take this day to honor all of those who have lost their lives in service to the United States of America. I would also like to take this moment to acknowledge any of those among us who have lost a loved one in the line of duty for our country. No words can adequately express our condolences or console a survivor's grief. Their bravery reminds us once again of the courage of those who've served and their willingness to sacrifice on our behalf. I stand here before you today, 30 years after I flew my very first combat sortie, which I will never forget. As Ed Schuessler said, there are many things that we remember about Memorial Day, but particularly those that we've lost. I also want to disabuse you of the notion that I was fighting for God and country that day. I joined the Air Force for God and country. I served in the Air Force for God and country. But that day, I fought for my front seater Flanny and for the other other aviators on my wing. I fought for the dozens of other U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, and Allied aviators that were part of that mission. We all fought that day to accomplish our mission, but also to bring everyone back home safely. I'm happy to say that that day we did both. Ronald Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. He also said, "Some people live an entire lifetime and wonder if they ever made a difference in the world. A veteran does not have that problem." But I want to remind you also that today is not Veterans Day. We have a day to honor veterans. Today is Memorial Day. Because on some days and some missions, we don't bring everyone home. They don't come home safely, and brave men and women pay the ultimate sacrifice. It is personal for me, because as I do every year, I want to acknowledge the brave men who I personally knew who gave their lives to our country. Captain Dennis White, a weapons system officer who was killed in a training accident from a sister squadron in North Carolina. Captain Jeff Flounder Fonlander, who was killed in a training accident in Idaho in 1999. He was my classmate at officer training school and navigator training, as well as a student of mine when he transitioned to the F-15E from the F-111. Major William Salty Watkins, who was killed over Tikrit, Iraq, who was a squadron mate and naval exchange officer in the 335th Fighter Squadron with me. He then cross-commissioned to the Air Force to continue flying the F-15E, stay in the Air Force, and marry his wife, fellow Air Force officer and my friend, Melissa Watkins. All these men left behind friends, families, wives, and children. But rather than mourn them, I want to echo the words of General George S. Patton, who said, "It is foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died. Rather, we should thank God such men lived." And now I'd like to read a short poem about Memorial Day. In fact, it's titled Memorial Day. We walked among the crosses where our fallen soldiers lay and listened to the bugle as taps began to play. The chaplain led a prayer. We stood and heads bowed low. And I thought of fallen comrades I had known so long ago. They came from every city across this fertile land that we might live in freedom. They lie here neath the sand. I felt a little guilty. My sacrifice was small. I only lost a little time, but these men lost it all. Now the services are over for this Memorial Day. To the names upon these crosses, I just want to say, thanks for what you've given. No one could ask for more. May you rest with God in heaven from now through evermore. Please observe a moment of silence to honor those who have fallen in service to our country, both domestically and abroad. Thank you. Now it is my pleasure to read the names that we will be adding to the wall today. And if those of you who are here, or if you're not here, if your families could stand up when you're called, please do so. Jerome Anthony Panazzo, U.S. Air Force, 1951 to 1956. Ronald John Kupchik, U.S. Army, 1964 to 1966. Robert A. Kittler, Sr., U.S. Army, 1963 to 1965. William Ruben de la Paz, U.S. Air Force, 1943 to 1946. Thomas Humphrey, Union Army, 1861 to 1864. Thank you all for coming this day, and I will turn it back over to Dan.
Thank you, Mayor Picou. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand and join the Orland Park Children's Choir in singing God Bless America. Afterwards, if you'd kindly remain standing.
While the storm clouds gather, while the storm clouds gather, far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair. As we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, lands that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Everyone! God bless America, lands that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Rifle team, attend, hut, port, arm. Unlock. Ready. Aim. Fire. 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 Freeze and arm. retrieve colors. Port arm. Right face. Forward march. Your left, your left, your left, right, left.
Thank you, American Legion Orland Memorial Post 111 and the VFW Rebertesment Post 2604. Thank you, young ladies, for singing so wonderfully today. I want to thank everyone for coming out today. It is so fantastic to see such a great turnout today. Those that have had their names engraved on Arapache, please come to the podium to receive your certificate of engraving afterwards. Please join us for refreshments in the Civic Center. And lastly, I would like to invite you to come to this spot, right up here, behind me during the Taste of Orland Park. The VAW Memorial Flag honoring over 7,000 fallen heroes from September 11, 2001 till December 31st, 2017. This memorial is a 28-foot by 6-foot American flag that symbolizes the shape of the flag when draped on a fallen service member's casket. This memorial will only be on display in Orland Park in Illinois this year. Thank you for all attending today's Memorial Day ceremony, and have a wonderful Memorial Day.